happens when music meets marketing, when creativity collides with strategy, when one person masters the art of storytelling across two completely different worlds. Today's guest lives at that intersection, a musician and a marketing guru who proves that whether you're crafting a melody or a message, it all comes down to the same thing: storytelling, creativity, and collaboration. And here's something special. They've created an original song just for the WEBB Remedy Podcast. You're about to hear it for the first time. So grab your favorite coffee or tea, settle in, and get ready for today's Remedy. Welcome back to another episode of the WEBB Remedy Podcast. I'm Rennie Orr, podcast host. I'm very delighted to have with me today Edith McCaskill of Unisong, and we were going to get into her business in a little bit. And she's also got a marketing business startup that she's working on. And so, Edith, welcome, and please just share with the listeners a little bit about your story and what brings you here.
Thank you for having me here, Rennie. I'm really excited to be here on the Remedy Podcast. Again, my name is Edith McCaskill. I also go by Deja Bell. That's like my stage name. So I am a singer, songwriter, song circle facilitator. I am also a marketer. And I think the through line with all of that is really at the heart of it all. I'm a storyteller, and I use the mediums of song and creative writing and branding to tell stories.
Can you share a little bit about your background and your love for music and how you got started just kind of like making music and bringing that into like a business?
Sure. I have always been creative from what my mama tells me. She's no longer with us, but when she was here, she told me, she just kind of mentioned it randomly one time that, I always had notebooks filled with songs, which I don't remember. It was just something I think that was innate. So I've been writing music and singing and performing since I could remember. I really started honing in on it and being intentional about it in high school. Also doing forensic speech competitions in high school. So that was a little bit later in my career. But I learned that I could also write speeches and compete and present doing just speaking as opposed to performing arts. So in high school, I left knowing that I had really worked on the two skills of performing arts, mainly through actually poetry, some singing, and dancing. But I just loved being on stage. And then also, like I said, the forensic speech part, which was kind of random. Like I remember when I was asked to join that club, I had no idea what I was doing. But I ended up really loving to write and to research and to write and then to present those writings through speech. So I remember in college, I did not pursue my creative craft at all. I was so intimidated by the talent that was there. I went to Howard University, and the kids at the fine arts department were just the most ambitious, competitive, like the top of the top kids. And although I had done performing arts for a long time in high school, it's not something that my parents supported. So when I got to college and I saw how confident those kids were, I felt like I shrunk a little bit. And it wasn't until I was graduating from college, I went to school for public relations. So I found a way to still be on stage and use my voice. I was definitely one of those kids that got in elementary school, the report was that I was good, but I talked a lot. Oh. So I think I've used that throughout my career. But anyway, I remember I was graduating from college. I had a degree in public relations, which was in the School of Journalism. Again, writing, learning how to do marketing and communications there. But I just had this feeling of like doom and gloom about the idea of like being stuck at a 9-to-5 forever. And at that moment, I was like, okay, I'm going to finally pursue this music thing. And so music for me was what I did privately. Like I was known as a poet. I did spoken word, but like I started translating those poems into songs like into my late teens and 20s, but I never shared them with anyone. I would sing with people, but like as far as being a solo singer, I also, that wasn't something that I was known for or that I did. I just kind of kept it to myself. But I just remember, like, at that moment, there was just this fire in me to just try and just get out there and to pursue something that felt very expansive and exciting and fulfilling. And so, since that point, since I graduated from college, I've always had like two careers. Okay. I've always had communications and marketing. That's like one path. And I've always pursued music at the same time.
So it sounds to me like there's probably some natural segues between being a musician and being a marketing person.
Yeah, I think so. I think like I was saying, I think storytelling at the core, there's that connection. Also collaboration. I really do love to collaborate. I work very well independently, but I love collaboration. It's definitely one of a strong skill set for me. A competency that I have is collaboration, and so I think music requires that, a lot of collaboration, and so does marketing. You're real, especially, when I work with an individual or an organization, you're really collaborating on helping to refine their voice and help them tell their story through whatever medium you use, whether that's video, photo, content, like actually writing songs, a jingle. It's really a collaborative effort to help that organization just refine their message and make sure that it's on brand and that it reaches the audience that it needs to reach.
Fantastic. I do want to spend a little time talking a little bit about your marketing business. I know that you're just starting up. Let's just dive in, talk about your work. Like, what services are you offering people and who are you serving right now?
Yes, and so I have, as I mentioned, I've been doing marketing and communications for a while. I've specifically or mainly worked with nonprofit and advocacy organizations for over a decade. And currently, I'm pursuing it as an entrepreneur, packaging my skill sets and just going to market and serving people in my community, serving organizations in my community. And I offer graphic design services, web design, email marketing, social media marketing, and also branding, which really fits into all four of those things that I mentioned. It's really important to highlight because everything starts with branding, with just the clarity of who you are and who you're trying to attract, and making sure that your language, your colors, where you show up, how you show up really aligns with that, so you can attract the right supporters, the right clients, the right donors.
And in our marketing modules here at Web Squared, we often start with your story.
Absolutely.
And so being a storyteller, there's so many people who can talk about their business, but they can't talk about the why they started the business. And I try to tell people you have to connect with people on an emotional level, and that's going to help you retain your clients and customers, because everything out there seems to be so generic anymore, especially with AI. So getting that like very personal touch, I think, is going to be a way that's going to differentiate us from where everything seems to be going in our culture. And it's going to help us connect more on human to human. And so storytelling to me is the basis of that. And so bringing your storytelling abilities into your work, I think, is going to go a long way for where you're at as a marketer.
Yes, thank you. And I agree that really your story, everyone's story is unique. So being able to really bring that into the marketing, I think it's a great strategy for setting yourself apart, because no one has your exact story.
Yeah. And I always, in the day of the influencer, I always tell people it's really important that you are able to share your story, because, people are marketing their businesses on two levels. They're marketing their business, but they're also marketing themselves.
And right, they're branding themselves, absolutely.
And so that seems to be a direction that we need to go when we help people with their marketing, is you can't just stick to marketing your business. you have to tell your story. I mean, that's what influencer culture has brought to the table. And,
Absolutely. Yeah, and I find it, I have personally found it challenging because sometimes when you ask someone about themselves, you're so used to yourself. I feel like it helps when someone from the outside shows you what is unique about you. Most people don't know immediately. They're like, well, I feel pretty average. And it's like, no, there's something there that sets you apart. Like you said, it could just be your why. It could be, some story that you have about what motivated you. Maybe it was something that happened with a grandparent who said something to you, who told you a family story, or, there's so many things, again, that in your story that really are unique when you start digging and you kind of have someone to help you pull that out. But I think initially when I just think about myself or thought about myself, I didn't necessarily think like, oh my gosh, me as an individual, as a brand is so unique. But again, as I dig more and more, I'm realizing even my upbringing, wow, this is not usual. This is actually unusual. And not only is it unusual, but it's actually informed a lot of how I see the world. And so being able to mine that and dig that up and then also communicate what that uniqueness is important. And I think it's possible for everyone. Do the work.
Well, I think that's a really good segue into your music business.
Yeah.
Because you're telling stories through your music as well.
Absolutely.
Right. And so my question to you is, can you tell us a little bit about Unisong and what you provide for folks who participate in one of your programs?
Sure. So I just want to clarify that I kind of feel like it's two businesses, but I don't know. We just got multiple businesses and multiple things going on here. Under Unisong, I do use my stage name, Deja Bell. Being a singer and songwriter kind of makes me like an accidental entrepreneur, because you're selling music, you're selling shows, I have merch. But Unisong is specifically me creating a business with my co-facilitator, and that business specifically is about us facilitating song circles and bringing community together. So I still, of course, use my skill of singing in this business. Unisong, what we do, we have community song circles that we host and facilitate right now in Siler City and in Durham, but we are going to expand. And there are opportunities right now that we're in talks with folks about expanding and offering something. We offer those song circles monthly in each location. And from those song circles, many opportunities have sprung up. And so we are doing more private events. We just had a fireside song circle at a farm that hosted us. And even from that, there were a few people who reached out and wanted us to do song circles at an environmental conference or another farm. But those farms, they have their own communities and like their own email lists, so they bring people. We're able to use their audience to bring people to the song circles. We've also worked with organizations that provide disability support organizations, specifically organizations that work with adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and we've gone and done song circles for them. So access, inclusivity and access for us are really important. We've also been working to contract with various senior centers, assisted living facilities to provide song circles to seniors as well. And so we're just, again, thinking about how do we bring community together, and then how do we go to places where access may be an issue for various communities like adults with disabilities or the seniors. And so that business it's growing. It's definitely a baby, but we're building structure around it. Like when I say it's a baby, like literally we're starting from the beginning, right? So we do have a revenue plan, and we're meeting every single week to just stay on track with our outreach and all the efforts that we're putting together. But it feels like it's growing as we provide the song circles. The feedback that we're getting it's tremendous. It's beyond what I even imagined. I know for me, music has always been very healing, cathartic. Creativity is like a high value, personal value for me. So it's the highest form of like human expression. And I believe we're all creative, and we should all be able to tap into like all of the modalities, any and all of them, right? So for me, it's been healing, but to see how bringing song to people and all of us singing in unison together, and even in just the sacred shape of the circle, has been so, like, the feedback that I get is that it has been so transformative for people who, it's like everyone loves to sing, but people are afraid to sing in public. And as music has become more and more commercialized over, 100 years or so, less and less people sing in public and together. I also think, like, the less people go to church, that's not a part of everyone's life as probably like it used to be 50, 60 years ago. But we just have less opportunities to sing together in community. And so we offer that. And even what we see, during song circles, we'll sing songs about grief, about uncertainty, trusting the process of life, like very heartfelt songs, very heartfelt mantras and affirmations. And sometimes people cry, or they're coming overwhelmed. It's been a long, day at work, or there's just so much going on. And when they just start using their voice, or they start hearing the humming and the harmonizing, it does something to their bodies, and they're able to release. So it's been a great experience. And we're plugging away. Like I said, it feels like, we're taking baby steps right now. This business is a baby, but I hope for it to be like really successful.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Speaking of music, listeners, we got a special treat. Edith is a songwriter, and she has written a song specifically for the WEBB Remedy Podcast.
Yeah.
We are going to take a moment to hear the song, and then we'll come back and talk about the process of creating this wonderful piece of music.
Everyday people, extraordinary lives, journey through their stories, transform your mind. They're building enterprises and community, making a way for each other. That's the remedy. That's the remedy.
Edith, that was really amazing. Thank you so much for this song. Let's liven up this podcast and make it even more special, because I feel like we're bringing our community into the process of what we're trying to build here at WEBB, and, support entrepreneurs like yourself that we work with. Do you want to share a little bit about what the process was like to create this special song for WEBB Squared?
Well, absolutely. Well, first, I just want to say that this is regenerative economics. I remember when I first came here as an entrepreneur looking for help. I thought one business, but then it was two, which I thought was too much. And Rennie said, no, that's not too much. If you've got two, then let's work on the two. But for you to support the marketing business in this way by actually hiring me, I think is just so amazing. Like, this is beyond the coaching. This is really exercising that value that you told me that you guys practice, which is regenerative economics. And so I think that's so cool. One thing I remember when we were talking about marketing, my marketing business, and how to set myself apart, you were just like, but you're a singer, you're a songwriter. Maybe you should do jingles. And I had actually done a jingle before and won this jingle contest years ago in Washington, D.C., where I grew up and came from before I moved down here. So I was like, you know what? I think that's a good idea. And so you hired me. You hired me to do this for the podcast, and it was exciting. The first thing I did, I remember, it was just research, right? I was asking you about what does the remedy mean? Really wanted to get a sense of the intent behind naming the podcast or even starting it. And so when I got that information about the idea that the remedy to our social ills really starts with dialogue. I just started freestyling. My aim usually with writing is to get into a flow state. And so it feels like a spark of inspiration. It feels like a download. It's hard to explain, but I just try to get into a flow state where it's creativity. Like ideas are starting to, you're starting to make connections with ideas. And so a phrase came to me and a melody came to me, and I recorded that and started playing around with it. And I was like, this is it. I was so excited. And I shared it with Rennie. So this is like the first take. I shared the song that I had come up with, and I gave her the musical reference that I was going to use because it reminded me of this progressive R&B song that I had heard, like 15 years ago or so. And so Rennie politely was like, I don't know about these words. She didn't feel like the words were fully reflective of where the podcast was going. They did reflect where the podcast began, but not where it was going. And so Rennie said, have you listened to the last few episodes? And at the time I hadn't yet. And so I went back and I listened to a few episodes. I went back to research mode and I listened. And what I gleaned from what the podcast was really trying to do was highlight the stories of everyday people who are doing extraordinary things in their community. And I went back into another flow state, trying to get inspiration. And that's when some of the words started coming, and I pieced it together. But I was still trying to figure out, well, how do I conclude with the remedy? I started talking about all these amazing stories, but it took a while. Like I said, I just kept freestyling, and I finally got something that felt like this is it. Like as far as lyrically, I felt like it really captured what I was hearing in the most recent episodes, maybe 3 or 4 that I listened to. And it still spoke to, and it was very positive, right? So the first song that I wrote before specifically spoke on the social ills, and I think that's what didn't feel as aligned with where the podcast is going. And so I made sure I focused on the positivity of, again, we're building community here. We're lifting each other up. We're practicing regenerative economics. Like we're really focusing on that. And like that is the remedy to the social ills, is the positive things that we're doing. And so I just took a different approach to the storytelling. And I had more than one idea about where it could go sonically. Progressive R&B was one, but I also heard this really bluesy. It would have been like an ode to North Carolina. It felt very Southern and soulful, but it didn't feel as uplifting as progressive. And so with storytelling, when it comes to music, my goal is to make sure that the words are creating a certain emotion and the music is also supporting that. And so I ended up keeping the progressive R&B and just changing the lyrics for what we finally ended up with. But that was the process.
And then when I heard the second, or read and then heard you sing the second part, the second version, I remember feeling that is it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to build with the podcast. That's what I'm trying to build with WEBB. And so it just felt like it really came together. And I actually felt really bad when I said the first time around, like, I'm not sure. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but like, I'm not sure it's resonating with me. And I'm not sure if we're not talking about those issues currently in the podcast that we were talking about 4 years ago, that it might confuse people. So I was really happy, like the collaborativeness of our emails back and forth that day, and your willingness to say, oh, okay, let me rethink this a little bit. So I appreciate you. I appreciate the process and being a part of that.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. And, like I said, I had to get into flow state more than once, but once it clicked for me, it felt really good too. And to receive your feedback that I love this. This is exactly what I want to say was so rewarding.
Now I just have to figure out where to put it. Do I put it at the beginning, or do I put it at the end of the podcast, or take a break during the podcast and say, okay, we're going to hear our song now. Come back after the song and finish up the conversation. So I've got choices to make when I do the editing. So thank you, Edith. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because this is an entrepreneurial mindset podcast, just to ask a couple questions or just get your feedback about your mindset as a dual entrepreneur and a musician and a marketer. So my first question is going to be like, what does success look like for you now with both of your businesses that you're working on?
Success looks like it looks like financial mobility. It looks like both of these businesses actually having like the financial legs to sustain themselves, and to sustain me and my family. It looks like creating real impact and doing work that I'm really proud of, impacting individual people's lives, whether that's allowing them to tap into their voices, or working with businesses that in a way that really allows them to show up online in a branding voice and way that really resonates with their audience, and ultimately brings in more, whatever that call to action is. It compels people to take those calls to action. That's what success looks like for me. I think it looks like impact, and it looks like financial mobility and stability for both businesses.
This is kind of a silly question. I'm sure you've heard of that icebreaker, like if you could have a superpower, what would it be? I like to reframe that for most people when I talk to them on the podcast. It's like, what is your superpower that makes you unique?
I think creativity is my superpower. Okay. I can use it in I use it in every role in my life, whether that's cooking or marketing or music or getting dressed. I look like creativity is literally the lens in which I look at everything. And at the core, creativity there's a resourcefulness. There's just generating ideas out of nowhere. And so I feel like that's my superpower. And I with whatever work that I do or however I show up, I feel like I'm always doing it from like a creative lens.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What advice would you give to somebody? Maybe they're just starting out, or maybe they're trying to balance multiple entrepreneur ventures at the same time.
I would definitely say collaborate. I feel like it's easier for me to pursue two businesses because one of them, for sure, I have a partner, someone who co-owns the business with me. And so it does, many hands make the work light, as they say. And so whatever collaboration looks like for you, maybe it's not half of your business, but just starting to bring people in as soon as possible. And even with Unisong, collaboration doesn't only look like doesn't only show up in me having a partner, but it also looks like what other organizations can we partner with to even provide the song circles, organizations that already have an audience, that maybe have a social media presence to help build our presence. So I think collaboration is key. If you are pursuing more than one business at a time, really pay attention to the ebbs and flows of your business. And when one ebbs, that maybe, that's a great opportunity to really to work on something else. And when one flows, you may have to pull back a little bit on something else. But I feel like when you have multiple passions or multiple interests or multiple fires that you're feeding, you're doing it in an ebb and flow way in order to not burn yourself out. I don't think you want to be 100% on everything all the time. That's like not really possible. But pay attention to the ebbs and flows of your business and pour in more when one thing is naturally ebbing, which happens in business. But each business is different, and each business has different seasons. So being clear about just being very, very aware of what that is for your businesses, I think will really help with you not burning out. Yeah, and I just want to encourage people who do have multiple passions that keep pouring into them. I remember I watched a really great talk from a woman. She may be an author, but she talked about, she was really speaking to the multi-passionate person. And her metaphor was the idea of a mother having multiple children. Do you feed one and starve the other? Or do you figure out how to ration what you have for all of them? And I think, we would all agree that you ration out what you have for all your children. And so with your passions, look at them like children and really do the best you can to feed all of them, because they all add up to your fulfillment. I think music for me is very fulfilling, but as I've lived life, having financial stability is also very, I won't say fulfilling, but it's necessary in order for me to even thrive as an artist. And so if I have skills, or if you have skills that you can sell to the market and you can put out there that will help you, that will sustain you and allow you to pursue your art, it's important to hold both of those things. And I feel like that's ultimately what I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have 2 quick questions left, and then
Take your time.
A wrap. My question for you is, do you have any upcoming projects, opportunities you want to tell listeners about?
Sure. So Unisong, our community song circles, we host one in Siler City at the North Carolina Arts Incubator every first Thursday of the month. We also host one in Durham every fourth Thursday of the month. And I know, Rennie, you'll have the information in the show notes, but if you just look up Unisong on Eventbrite, all of our events will pop up there, so you can register and get on our email list and just learn about all of our communities, song circles, and then, like as I mentioned, the other private events that are coming up as well that you can attend. And as far as marketing, if you're a nonprofit or advocacy organization or a creative entrepreneur out there who's interested in graphic design, email marketing, social media marketing, branding, web design, all the things, please feel free to email me at Edith G. McCaskill. That's MCCASKILL @gmail.com.
Well, that was going to be my final question. What's the best way for people to reach you?
I kind of just wrapped that all up into one. Hit me up.
I will have it all in the show notes so people can find you. Edith, this was great. Thank you for coming on to the podcast talking
Rennie.
about music and your process. And this is not going to be the end of our collaboration. We'll have more opportunities to work together.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
My brain is certainly, can I get her to help me with this? Can I get her to lead some marketing classes for our entrepreneurs? So we will talk. But thank you so much. And I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful experience, and I look forward to collaborating more with Web Squared.
Everyday people, extraordinary lives, journey through their stories, transform your mind. They're building enterprises and communities. for each other. That's the remedy. That's the remedy.
That's our conversation for today. If something resonated with you, a story, an idea, a lyric, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. That's how movements start. That's how communities grow stronger. We'll be back soon with another entrepreneur, another story, another remedy. Until then, remember, our evolution begins with dialogue. Thank you for listening to the WEBB Remedy Podcast, a mindset shifting project of WEBB Squared. Wealth Through Entrepreneurship for Black and Brown Businesses is a North Carolina nonprofit located in Chatham County. We offer incubator accelerator business services to Black, BIPOC, and rural entrepreneurs. Our podcast producer and editor is Rennie Orr, the executive director of WEBB Squared. Our music is by Deja Bell and Maddie McCaskill. Our podcast studio is located at the 79 West Innovation Hub in Pittsboro, North Carolina. We realize that building an ecosystem of support is critical to achieving our mission. Your donation supports WEBB Squared's coaching services, the promotion of the businesses and entrepreneurs we serve, and of course the podcast. To learn more, please visit our website at webbsquared.org.